You are listening to episode 145 of the Autism Mom Coach, Unsolicited Disciplinary Advice. Welcome to the Autism Mom Coach podcast. I am your host, Lisa Candera. I am a lawyer, a life coach, and most importantly, I am the full-time single mother of a teenager with autism. In this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools and strategies you need so you can fight like hell for your child without burning out. Let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am so glad you are here, and I hope you are doing well. Before we get to today's topic, I have some exciting news. I am accepting new one-on-one coaching clients for January 2025. That's because in the next few weeks, I will be graduating some of my current clients, women who have transformed their autism parenting experience from second guessing and blaming themselves and feeling out of control and dysregulated to women who now feel calm and confident and in control. So the point of life coaching isn't necessarily to have a life coach for the rest of your life. I mean, some people really love that, like me. I'll always have a coach. But the thing about coaching, the amazing thing about coaching is that it is results oriented. The purpose of coaching, especially my coaching, is to give you the tools and strategies that you need, support you in the implementation, and then you have these tools and strategies for life. And so for my clients who are graduating, they are staying on in my alumni membership program so that they can continue to get support, but they no longer need that one-on-one touch point. And this is great news for you. This is your chance to start 2025 with me by your side as your coach, providing you with tailored strategies and comprehensive support so that you can transform your autism parenting experience. Instead of constantly walking on eggshells and second guessing yourself and living in fear of the future, you will show up with confidence. You will know that you can handle anything and you will know exactly how to regulate yourself when you're feeling triggered. So this all begins with scheduling a consultation. Schedule your consultation now during December and we will get started in January. During the consultation, I want to learn what you're struggling with and talk to you about how coaching can help support you and not only feeling better and feeling more confident, but being the parent you want to be. When you have these tools and these strategies, you're not just better for yourself, you're better for your child. You're a better advocate, you're a better decision maker, and you're better at helping them handle their big emotions because you're able to handle yours. So this is your chance to start 2025 with me by your side as your personal one-on-one coach. To get started, go to the show notes or my website and schedule your consultation there. All right, on to today's topic. This week is a hot topic for autism mom all year long, but one that especially seems to surface during the holidays. I am seeing it with so many of my clients, whether their child is 3 or 23, the dread they are feeling leading up to family gatherings or community events and outings. And what are they dreading? They are dreading the unsolicited disciplinary advice, the comments, questions, or anecdotes that suggest certain approaches to parenting or discipline. These sound like, have you thought about being stricter or setting harder rules? Kids just need discipline. That always worked for us. If my child ever acted like that, I'd make sure they learned quickly not to. My cousin's child is autistic and she doesn't let him get away with anything. These kinds of statements, whether they're meant as advice or not, feel like judgment. And because we already fear being judged, because we are already our own harshest critics, when we hear statements like this, no matter how angry we get at the other person, we internalize it. Especially when it comes from people we love or people who are close to us or who we want to be close to our child, these statements can be really tough to hear. So that's why today I want to talk about what to do when you get unsolicited disciplinary advice. But before we get to the what to do, let's just first talk about why this happens, because the why behind why a person says what they do, and of course we never know for sure, but that can inform how you decide to respond, the boundaries you create, and who you decide to trust and to be vulnerable with. Okay, so some people judge or criticize out of ignorance, out of bias, or out of discomfort what they don't understand. Maybe they think that they know better, or they believe that they would handle things better, and they feel compelled to tell you this. So this could sound like, we didn't have all this therapy back in my day. Kids just need structure and discipline. If you were stricter, your child wouldn't behave like that. Why are you making excuses for her? She just needs to learn to deal with the real world. Now, it is natural to feel hurt or defensive in these moments, but it's also important to ask yourself, is this person actually judging me, or am I projecting my own fear or judgment on them? Now, with these particular examples, I don't know, they feel pretty judgmental, but there can be other much more subtle ways that people give you unsolicited disciplinary advice that perhaps are judgmental, but maybe they're not. So for instance, let's say your brother-in-law asks you, why do you let your child use a tablet so much? Now, at first, this might feel like judgment about your parenting choices, but it also probably reflects his lack of understanding about how certain tools, like a tablet, can really help children with autism regulate when they are in unfamiliar environments. So maybe his question stems from ignorance, maybe it's curiosity, or even a well-meaning attempt to connect. That is for you to discern, but in order to do that, you have to first be open to the very real possibility that the people you surround yourself with aren't necessarily judging you. They just don't get it. Speaking of not getting it, some people genuinely don't understand autism or sensory overload or why a good spanking just won't fix everything. So they might make suggestions or ask questions that reflect this. In this case, especially with people that you care about and who are important to you and your child, assume good or just neutral intent. If the person is important to you, take the time to educate them. Now, I am not saying it is your job to educate everyone all of the time. Truly, it's not. And if people don't know, they're not going to suddenly start knowing if we, the parents of this particular child with autism, aren't sharing with them. They don't know that all autistic people aren't the same. They don't know that your child is high functioning in some regards and not in other regards. They don't get it all. So for these people, you might want to have a softer response like, I hear you, and I really wish something like a timeout would work, but it doesn't address the underlying sensory or emotional needs. Same thing for the final group of people, the people with good intentions who are truly curious and want to be helpful. They may believe that suggesting things and giving advice is helpful, or they might feel helpless and this is their way of trying to be helpful. I know that this was the case with me, and what people do is they will give you advice trying to make sense of your experience by relating it to something that they understand, something they heard, something they read, someone else that they know. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't wearing, and I'm not saying that people with good intentions can't cross a boundary or say something out of line. But it's also worth considering. Are they trying to criticize, or are they genuinely trying to connect or offer support? And another thing to consider is, who are you dealing with? So for instance, I have a family member that whenever someone is facing anything, she researches the heck out of it. Whether it's me getting into law school, me taking and passing the bar exam on the first try, or my son's diagnosis, she will research the heck out of it and then present some of her findings and her questions based on her research. But she does this for everything, not specific to autism. So look out for those people in your life. Are the things that they're asking, is this just what they do in any situation? That's a really good way of detecting. Is this judgment or criticism or something between ignorance and good intentions? Because whenever possible, it's important to nurture allies. Even if their attempts miss the mark, these are the people who are willing to learn and who care about you and your child. And with the right guidance and the right information from you about your particular experience, they can become important parts of your support team and your child's support team. All right, now let's get to the nitty-gritty of how to respond. We all have those imagined responses in our brains of what we want to say to people sometimes when they ask us a question or give us unsolicited disciplinary advice. But for the purposes of this podcast, let's focus on the people in our lives that we are choosing to hang out with, friends and family. When dealing with someone you want to educate or bring into the fold, consider being proactive. If it's possible, have a conversation with them ahead of time, especially before a planned event or gathering. For example, I had this conversation with family where I said, hey, for Thanksgiving, it would be really great if we could just focus on catching up and enjoying each other's company. And I'm happy to answer any questions about Ben at a later time. Or I'd rather not share what's going on with the entire party. So can we talk about this another time? And I'm still processing this. So I'd rather not this be a dinner conversation. These are just simple ways that you can let people ahead of time know what you're available for and what you're not available for, but also keeping the door open to having a conversation with them if that's what you want. So here are some other suggestions for this proactive conversation or even the in the moment responses. First, I appreciate your concern. I want you to know that this diagnosis consumes most of my time and energy and even my sleep. I'm constantly researching strategies and solutions. So when you offer suggestions, even with the best of intentions, it can feel really overwhelming to me. Like I've missed something or I'm not doing enough. I know that's not what you mean, but that's how I feel. Or you could say something like, here's something I've learned about autism. It's not intuitive. It's like living in opposite land. The strategies that work for neurotypical kids often don't work for kids with autism, and sometimes they backfire. Or it's a common misconception that autism looks the same for every child, but it really doesn't. With these responses, you're not shutting the person down. You're acknowledging whatever advice or concern that they've raised, but you're also letting them know where you stand on it by giving them a little bit of education. But of course, you're not always going to want to do this, and there might be times where you just want to politely shut down a conversation. You can do this with humor or you can do it straight up. So a couple of ways I've done it in the past with humor, especially when someone would make a remark about Ben's behavior or disciplinary advice, I would say something like, oh my God, I wish that worked. It would be so much easier, but it doesn't. Or, yes, of course I've tried that. It's not my first day. These are just lighthearted ways that you can acknowledge that the person has given you some advice, but also send the message that, no, we're not talking about this. But for some people, you need to be very straightforward. So something like, thanks for your concern. That's it. Thanks for your concern and awkward silence. That will probably do the trick. Or, thank you for asking, but can we talk about someone else? Or, I know you're coming from a good place, but please understand, if you've thought of it, I've either tried it or ruled it out for a really good reason. Or finally, I really appreciate you wanting to help. Period. No over-explaining. That's it. When you're not over-explaining yourself out of your own fear of judgment and you just end the sentence, the conversation will likely end as well. Then finally, there are people that you might want to firmly shut down. I coached one of my clients about this last week, and she has a family member who gives her the same advice over and over, or who asks her the same question about discipline for her son over and over. And she's annoyed by it, and she doesn't want to have the conversation. So what she's decided to say is, I've explained this to you multiple times. Let's move on. Other potential responses, I know you feel strongly about this, but please keep those opinions to yourself. Or you don't have to understand it for this to be the right choice for our family. This isn't up for discussion. Period. Awkward silence. No over-explaining. Or asked and answered. Let's move on. In each of these cases, you're responding to the person, but you're letting them know pretty clearly this is not up for discussion. And for some people in your life, whether they are persistently or insistently ignorant, you might need to do this. But for those people, you also have to make some decisions. Are these people that you want to hang out with? If these are people that come with other people that you want to hang out with, then some firm boundaries ahead of time so you don't have to have these conversations in the moment might be the way to go. Now, for all of this, you get to decide in advance how much of your energy that you want to spend explaining or educating people. The most important thing here is for you to protect your energy. When other people offer you suggestions, what I see from my moms all of the time is that they internalize those suggestions as judgment because they are already judging themselves. So before you even take the time to focus on how you might respond to another person, focus on what you do know. You are the expert on your child. You have good reasons for the decisions that you've made, and another person asking a question or providing you with an anecdote is not a reason for you to second guess yourself. And of course, if this is something you struggle with, schedule your consultation now. This is exactly what I help my clients with all of the time. The second guessing of themselves, the wondering if they're doing enough or the right things, the constant fear of judgment. These are all things that I will work on with you in my one-on-one program, and you will leave this program feeling calm, confident, and in control. Again, to schedule your consultation, go to the episode notes or my website, theautismmomcoach.com. All right, everyone, have a great week. I'll talk to you next. Thanks for listening to the Autism Mom Coach. If you are ready to apply the principles you are learning in these episodes to your life, it is time to schedule a consultation call with me. Podcasts are great, but the ahas are fleeting. Real change comes from application and implementation, and this is exactly what we do in my one-on-one coaching program. To schedule your consultation, go to my website, theautismmomcoach.com, work with me, and take the first step to taking better care of yourself so that you can show up as the parent you want to be for your child with autism.